Getting an inheritance of $1 million in your 30s and 40s can make a massive difference on your financial future. My name's Edwena Dixon, and here on this channel we talk about financial advice for Australians, and today we're talking about how can you actually make smart financial decisions with an inheritance that you're about to receive. We've got two questions that we start with. The first one is, what are the tax implications of any financial inheritance that you receive, whether it's a lump sum of cash or whether it's actually property? And then the second one we're actually going to be looking at is, how can you use that money or that asset to be able to then live the life that you're wanting to actually live, to be able to reach those goals, those longer term goals. Because if you're in a position where you're receiving an inheritance in your 30s and 40s, now is the time that it's actually going to have the biggest impact on your life. So we want to make sure that we're making smart financial decisions and that you're using those funds to the best that you possibly can. Your first question may be, do I have to pay inheritance tax? Well, here in Australia, you do not. There is no inheritance tax. However, depending on what you actually receive as part of your inheritance, you may have to pay capital gains tax. Now, this is a tax that you pay on property when you sell a property. So when you inherit a property as part of a deceased estate, you're given a certain amount of time to then sell that property, and you're given 2 years. Now, if you decide to sell the property, and let's say, for example, you have inherited your grandmother's property and the property's worth $1.5 million. If you decide to then sell that property and it sells within 2 years, then you don't have to pay capital gains tax. But if you decide to hold on to the property and you then sell it 5 years later, then you will be having to pay capital gains tax. Now, the calculation on what that capital gains tax is pretty complicated, and I would say you probably want to speak to an accountant about it. But the crux of it is they look at what was the value of the property when you first inherited that property. And then they look at what's the property value at once you then sell that property. And capital gains tax, that's 50% of that profit amount. So it's really something that you do want to work out and make a decision early on if you are inheriting a property, whether you actually want to sell that asset or hold on to it, because a 50% tax is a lot of money. How do you want to use this inheritance to then change your life? When you're in your 30s and your 40s, it is a time where you're taking on enormous amounts of debt because you're usually upgrading your home, you're almost at the peak of your working income career-wise, and you're already at a point where you probably actually have the highest expenses you will in your life. You've probably got kids, you've probably got a couple of kids if you're like me, you've got a big house, and you've got cars. There's other things that you've also probably got as well, hopefully an investment property, credit cards. And so taking the inheritance that you've got and actually putting it to work and making that money grow is a really great way to make sure that you're actually going to achieve whatever your financial goals are. So let's start by looking at, what is it that you actually want to be able to do in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? Do you want to be retiring early? Well, if you do, then investing the funds that you've received as part of that inheritance is likely to be a really great way to make that money grow and to be able to actually have it give back even more to you and to your family to help you achieve that goal. The other thing to think about is, when you inherited that money, did the person actually want you to do something specific with that money? Some people, it might be that they've actually earmarked the funds as money that is to be used to purchase property or to do something with property. It may be that you need to then pay down that mortgage and to be able to become debt-free faster. That might have been written into the will. But then also we want to look at, well, with those funds, because it is a point in your life where in your 30s and your 40s you do have the highest amount of debt, it is also a point where we want to look at it and go, okay, you have been given a very unique opportunity to take that money and invest it in ways that you wouldn't be able to do if you inherited that money in your 60s, which is where a lot of people actually receive those inheritances. So for you, we really want to stop and look at it and go, okay, is this enough money for you to be able to purchase an investment property, to be able to invest into the stock market? The way that we want you to think about it from a point of view of actually just making a smart financial decision with this inheritance is, what do you do with this money? Because it's almost like getting a bonus. Now, I would say you probably, want to take a small portion of it and do something enjoyable, go on a holiday and really remember and appreciate the hard work that that person that you've received this inheritance from sacrificed, and actually just acknowledge that, because that is an incredible blessing that they have given to you by giving you that inheritance. Then we want to look at, okay, you've got that money, now how can you make that money grow? You know, with your current financial situation, that you already had that sorted. Even before you had this inheritance, you were on top of your finances. So this inheritance is a bonus. And so we want to be able to take this inheritance and make it grow. Now we want to look at either doing it through the stock market or through investment properties, but you want to actually stop and look at the numbers and decide which one fits into your risk profile. If you don't know how to do that, that's fine. We've got another video for you.